Just as we can perform a for loop in C#, so too in Sass. So here we've got this body with 5 tiles, and each tile has a separate ID. They all start with the word tile, but we've got tile 1 through 5 here. So ordinarily in CSS, if we wanted to style these tiles differently, so for example set a different background color, we'd have to have 5 different selectors here, one for each ID. In Sass, we can make use of a for loop to generate these IDs for us. So let's take a look at how we'd use a for loop. So much like in C#, we need to declare a counter variable. So here we're just declaring $i as our loop counter variable, and we're saying we want to loop from the value 1 through to 5. So this is 1 to 5 inclusive, so we won't get a 6 or a 0. And just for good measure here, we're outputting some debug information so we can see this loop in action. And inside the for loop here, we want to create a selector for each tile ID. So we just start with a normal CSS ID selector here, and then we're going to use this syntax here, which is Sass's interpolation feature. And what this will do is it will take the value of whatever's inside these braces and output it as pure text into the CSS, rather than treating it as a special variable. So here, in effect, we'll get hash tile 1. And as the loop progresses, this variable here will mean that we'll get 5 different hash tile selectors output, each postfixed with the value in our loop counter here. And inside our selector here, we're just extending tile, and then we're going to set the background color. So here we're making use of the lighten color function, and we're taking our root color here, and we're lightening it by a multiple of 10%, so based on the value of I. So for tile 1 this will be 10%, and for tile 2 this will be 20%, and so on. So let's save this, and have a look at our debug output here, and here we can see our debug output as Sass is looping through our for loop. So let's take a look at the CSS. And we can see our for loop here has created our 5 CSS selectors from tile 1 to tile 5. And we've progressively lightened the color as we've moved through the loop until we get to such a light color as it's actually white. So let's take a look at this in the browser. And we can see now our 5 tiles styled via our for loop. So that's how we can use the for directive to create a for loop for a given range of numbers, in this case 1 to 5, and also how we can use a for loop in conjunction with the interpolation feature to actually output the variable value directly to the CSS.